Jailed Thai cabinet ministers are already removed from office, says Deputy Prime Minister Wissanu. The vacancies at the pinnacle of government, with two senior cabinet roles to fill, now sparks a race for promotion among junior ministers and MPs in Parliament eyeing a ministerial role. The low-key response from the government on Wednesday and Thursday to the sight of cabinet colleagues being driven away in a prison lorry is quite remarkable. The three Thai cabinet ministers sent to jail on Wednesday night by the criminal court in Bangkok after a 6-hour judgment was read out, are already unseated according to Deputy Prime Minister Wissanu. This now paves the way for a cabinet reshuffle. The three were jailed for their roles in violent protests and insurrection against the democratically elected government of Yingluck Shinawatra from the end of 2013 to May 2014, which preceded the military coup that year. On Wednesday night, in dramatic scenes, 8 of those sentenced before the criminal court in Bangkok were ferried off to prison in a lorry. They included the three cabinet ministers sentenced for their roles in the 2013-2014 street protests. Later, Deputy Prime Minister Wissanu confirmed that all three had been removed from office, on sentencing, under Section 160(7) of the 2017 Constitution. 3 cabinet ministers, including 2 senior members, were jailed in Bangkok on Wednesday evening after the criminal court finished reading its verdict on a court case that had been running since 2018. 26 people, including Minister of Education Nataful Teepsuwan and Digital Economy and Society Minister Budhipong Punakanta, as well as Deputy Minister of Transport, Thorn Senim, in all, were handed down jail terms by the court. 12 were suspended sentences, including one for the wife of Mr. Nataful, Ms. Thea Teepsuwan. Former Education Minister Nataful sent to prison for 7 years and 4 months in a prison lorry together with 2 cabinet colleagues. Mr. Nataful received a sentence of 7 years and 4 months, while Mr. Budhipong was handed a 7-year term and Mr. Thorn received 5 years in jail. 3 cabinet ministers get jail for insurrection over PDRC protests. However, only 8 people were later taken by prison lorry to begin serving the sentences handed down by the court. These included the 3 cabinet ministers and the leader of the People's Democratic Reform Committee protest movement, Suthep Thaugsuban, who was given a 5-year prison term by the court. The 2 senior ministers are members of the governing Palang Pracharath Party, while the junior minister was affiliated with the Democrat Party, which is a coalition partner. Arrived in suits and ties, left by the prison gate in T-shirts waving to the media circus outside. The ministers arrived in suits and ties and left through prison gates wearing casual T-shirts and waving to the crowds. At least one family relative of the ministerial team was seen in tears at the culmination of a tense and stressful day at court and in the full glare of media headlights. It has emerged that the court revoked the political rights of Mr. Nataful, his wife and several current MPs, as well as activists who were found guilty. 12 people were acquitted by the court. 39 people, in total, were arraigned in 2018, but one defendant, General Preacher Iam Zupan, died. 12 people were acquitted out of the 37 people who appeared in court, while one defendant, Police Colonel Paterapong Supiayapanich, was already in prison. He watched the verdict, which was read out from 11 o'clock on Wednesday until 5:20 p.m., by video link. Those convicted were found guilty of a range of offences, including insurrection, unlawful assembly, criminal association and willful obstruction of others exercising their democratic rights in the course of a failed election called by then Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra in an attempt to defuse the crisis. PDRC leaders paid the price for undermining a 2014 general election, which was nullified later in court. That election was held on Sunday, the 2nd of February 2014, and was boycotted by opposition parties as well as the PDRC movement in fierce and violent clashes at the precincts of polling stations. The result was the poll was inconclusive in 69 out of 375 constituencies and subsequently declared null and void by the Constitutional Court on the 21st of March 2014. Remarkably low-key response as Deputy Prime Minister confirms the position. Ministers are gone. The government response to the dramatic events of Wednesday has been remarkably low-key. Deputy Prime Minister Wissanu, the ministry's legal expert, revealed that the 3 ministers have automatically lost their positions in the government under the 2017 Constitution. This is covered by Section 160(7). According to Mr. Wissanu, It appears that Mr. Nataful may also have lost his status as a party list MP as the court revoked his political rights. According to the DPM, it does not matter if the ministers win their cases on appeal, as the constitution explicitly references a person sentenced to prison except where the matter is something minor or a case of defamation, which, in Thailand, is a criminal instead of a civil matter. The same consequences also apply to suspended sentences handed down by judges. Cabinet reshuffle race begins on the basis a cabinet reshuffle will follow. Already two up-and-coming deputy ministers are eyeing the senior cabinet posts of Education and Digital Economy Minister occupied by Mr. Nataful and Mr. Budhipong's Punakanta. This was even speculated on last weekend following the government's defeat of the no-confidence motion in Parliament and a clear indication that some ministers are more supported than others. These are the Deputy Minister of Agriculture Thamanat Prompau and the Deputy Minister of Labour Naruman Pinar Sinwat.